Now it's my honor to present to you my friend and our hooding speaker, Andrew Robertson. Andrew?
Dean Reinemund, faculty, all of you wonderful families and friends of the most important people who are here tonight, graduates, thank you all for having me. I'd like to start with an apology. I expect many of you were hoping for someone 25 years younger than me, someone in jeans, a black roll neck, or a hoodie, not someone who was here to help with the hooding. Someone who would urge you to pursue your dreams, to move fast and break things, to be fearless and uncompromising. I'm sorry. I'm not that guy, and I'm not going to give you that advice. When Dean Reinemund called me to ask me to speak today, and I still don't know why, but I immediately said yes. And a minute after I put the phone down, I thought, why did I do that? And more importantly, what do I possibly have to say to you, the graduating class of 2014, that you're going to find remotely interesting or useful? I'm still not sure I've got the answer to that, but I'm going to have a go. I want to start now with something good. So having started with an apology, here's some really good news. You are now all qualified to do any job you want. So congratulations for that. Of course, if you decide you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, you'll have to go back to school, but in business, you're good. From now on, it's going to be much more about how you work than what you know and how you think. I'm a very lucky guy, and I'll come back to that later. I love my job. There are lots of things to love about it. But one of the best of them is that I have a really varied diet. As Steve mentioned, I work with a lot of great clients, and I get to see into my clients' organizations, and I get to see really deep into them. I get to see how they work, or at times don't. I get to see how people succeed in those companies, or don't. I've worked with some of the best, and I've been fired by some of the best. And what I want to share with you today is my top 10 tips based on what I've observed in all of those organizations. My top 10 tips for getting on. Tip number 1, remember this. In the war between strategy and culture, culture eats strategy for breakfast. There's a lot that's been written about corporate culture. At any airport bookstore, you will find an entire section devoted to it. And I've learned 3 things. The first is that corporate cultures vary more than the people who write books about corporate culture know. The second is that the impact of that culture on the performance of the business is greater than the people who write the books in those airports know. And thirdly, and perhaps most uncomfortably, the culture of a company is shaped way more directly by the individual person, the single person at the top of that company, than anybody would really like to admit. So what does this mean for you? Don't try and find a culture that's perfect for you. It's too big an ask. Find one you can work in. Make sure you understand the culture that you're working in, and get that understanding not by reading and reciting the vision, mission, and values, but by observing how people actually behave. As the great management theorist Yogi Berra once opined, you can observe a whole lot just by watching. So understand that culture, and then adapt your behavior to the culture you're in. One day, you will be, or may be, the person at the top who gets to change and shape that culture, whether you're doing it consciously or not. But until then, you'll be far more successful by swimming in it, not challenging it. And if you find yourself in a culture that you really can't, or more importantly, don't want to swim in and adapt to, then leave. And leave as fast as you can, because a toxic culture will eventually poison you. At BBDO, we've codified our culture into 10 characteristics. The 10 characteristics that we observed were displayed by the people in the company who did the best in the company and did the best for the company. One of them is they pick themselves up fast. Ours is a business where you can take some pretty big knocks. You can't be successful by trying to avoid them. You can by being able to pick yourself up fast, dust yourself down, and get back on the horse. And this brings me to the second tip to remember. Grit wins. Some of you heard Nathan Hatch talk about this in his address to the class of 2013 last year. So I'm not going to repeat everything he said. I'm sure it's available online, and if you haven't read it, I encourage you to. But what he said is true. Resilience and perseverance and energy will win, hands down, all the time. If you radiate energy to others, if you can pick yourself up when you get knocked down, and if you persevere to ensure that you squeeze every last drop out of every last opportunity, you will win. Lorne Michaels, the producer of Saturday Night Live, has a wonderful saying. He says, "The show doesn't go out because it's ready, it goes out because it's 11:30. I've been lucky enough to be at Saturday Night Live a couple of times when they put the show out, and it's the truth. They start work on the show on a Monday morning, and they keep working and working and working and working to improve it right up until 11:29 and 59 seconds. Alan Rosenshine, who was my predecessor at BBDO, had a slightly different take on it. He said, "If you think you're through, you probably will be." This too is good news. We can't all be as inventive or as brilliant as Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, but by and large, we can choose to work with their resilience, their perseverance, and their energy, with their grit. The third tip is connected to this. Learn to love problems. Most people would rather not have problems. They'd prefer to avoid them altogether, and when they have them, they wish they didn't. And that's fair enough. But I'm not simply arguing that you need to learn to face up to and confront problems instead of avoiding them. I'm arguing for something more extreme than this. I'm arguing you need to learn to love them. How? By seeing every problem as an opportunity to make a big difference. Over the years, both in our agencies and in our clients' companies, I've watched smart, talented, energetic people look for the quick wins and the easy rides, the brand that's growing fast, the trade customer that's doing best, the geography that's on the up. They haven't done as well as the people who've run towards the fires. That's how you make yourself most valuable to your company, and that's how you make yourself most valuable to your boss. And here's the thing. The more successful you are, and the higher you move up any organization, the more problems you will have. The easiest job you're ever going to have is the first one. So if you don't learn to love your problems, the more successful you are, the more miserable you're going to be. Here's number 4. Don't look for a mentor. You heard me. Don't look for a mentor. Concentrate instead on being a good mentee, on working hard and asking for and listening to feedback and coaching and then acting on it. Do that, and great mentors will find and adopt you. Do, however, find someone who will tell you the truth. This is number 5. The further up an organization you go, the more you will find, miraculously, that the people around you nod a lot and laugh at all of your jokes. And even when you're really diligent about asking for people's opinions, ideas, and feedback, you'll be amazed how aligned they are with yours. This is probably not because you're getting that much smarter or funnier. Find at least one, and preferably 2 people, who will tell you the truth, however uncomfortable. You'll be way more successful as a result. Incidentally, this is advice that I got 10 years ago when I took over as CEO from BBDO Worldwide from Steve Reinemund. Here's number 6. I said earlier I was a lucky guy. I never dreamed of being the CEO of BBDO. I never had a plan. As a student, I had a part-time job as a bartender at the Maidenhead Conservative Club, a place where middle-aged, middle-class, Middle Englanders came to play cards, snooker, darts, and drink for less than they could at neighbouring pubs. It paid £2.32 an hour, the minimum wage, and there were no tips to be earned. This was England, after all, and the Maidenhead Conservative Club in particular. I could have spent these long evenings, as some of my fellow bartenders did, leaning on the cash register until a customer caught my eye and asked for some service, pouring their drinks and returning to stare at the television in the side room. I'd have got exactly the same £2.32 for each long hour. I decided it would be more fun to work harder at it. I made a point of learning all of the customers' names and what they drank. I talked to them about their jobs and their kids. I entertained them. It was a very long bar, and groups would form along it drinking. And what I would do is I'd go down to one end of the bar where there'd be a group there, and I'd tell them a joke. And as always happens, when you tell a joke, somebody in the group will tell a joke back. Then I'd go down to the other end of the bar and take the joke that this group told me and tell it to this group. And they would laugh, and one of them would tell me a joke. And during the course of an evening, all I did was swap this group's jokes with that group and that group with them. And they all thought I was the funniest guy on the planet. I later realized that McKinsey perfected exactly the same model to build a 7,000-person, $7 billion business, except they charged for each joke. The hours flew by, and I went home feeling great every night. One night, one of those customers in one of those groups said to me, "You can come and work for me if you like, selling insurance. I'll give you 2 days training, and you can use the phone in the office to do your cold calling," which was a significant offer at the time because there were no unlimited calling plans. He said, "I won't pay you a salary, but you'll earn commission on everything you sell." So for 2 years, every Monday evening, I would go to his office and make 100 cold calls. There were no qualified lists. I used to do it straight from the phone book. If I made 100 calls, I got 10 appointments, and I would do those on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday evenings. And from those 10 appointments, I would make 3 sales, and 3 sales was worth about $500, which was an awful lot of money to me. I threw everything I could into those calls and those appointments, and when I didn't, for whatever reason, surprise, surprise, my commission dropped. And that was a problem for me because I was living a really great life. Every night after I finished the appointments, I would go to a nightclub called the Valbonne, which was a very different place from the Maidenhead Conservative Club. And I'd hang around there until they closed at 2 in the morning, at which point a couple of mornings a week I would go and play backgammon at the Royal Berkshire Hotel, and then drag myself home, sleep till about 11, and go into London to college for the afternoon before I repeated it every single night. It was fantastic. Until the day my dad said, "You know this can't go on." "What do you mean?" I said. And he said, "Well, your mother and I are quite happy to support you while you're at college, but as soon as you graduate, you either get your own car or start paying your mother for using hers, and you either get your own place or pay rent for the room that you're using in ours." My heart sank. My entire world was collapsing around me. And that night, I was very miserably leaning on the bar at the Valbonne nightclub, staring into my drink, wondering what I was going to do. It was late. They were putting the lights on and the chairs were being put on the tables. And there was a guy standing next to me. I only knew him from the Valbonne. But he seemed to be there as often as I was. And he had an Alfa Romeo. And I said to him, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I work for an ad agency." So I said, "I think I'll do that." That's how much of a plan I had. That's how much I dreamed. And here's the point, and it's the single most important thing I'm going to tell you today. If there was a tweet of the speech, it would be this. If you want a job you'll love, love the job you've got. If you want a job you'll love the job you've got. In the next few years, there are going to be times when you are asked to prepare endless PowerPoint decks, many of which will never be used. You'll be asked to synthesize reports which will not end up being read. You'll be asked to greet people at events and give them lanyards. You'll be asked to get people coffee and sandwiches. And you will find yourself thinking, is this what I went to Wake Forest Business School for? Is this what I put in all that time and money and effort? Don't do that. Just love the job you're in. Prepare the best PowerPoint deck your boss has ever seen. Prepare one she hasn't even asked for. Write the most concise and precise and insightful reports and syntheses you possibly can in the time available, and keep working until 11:29 and 59 seconds when the show goes out. Greet those people with a big warm smile and give them their lanyards and make the coffee perfect. Don't spend your time in one job looking over its shoulder to see if there's a better one or more interesting one at the party to go and talk to instead. The job will see. Love the job you're in. And do that in every job that you're in. Why? Because you will enjoy it much more. Time will fly and you'll have fun, like I did at the Maidenhead Conservative Club. I was lucky enough to work with a great man called David Abbott. He was the founder and chairman of the agency, and in my opinion, one of the greatest copywriters ever to live. And one morning, I found him up against the staircase in the agency, and he was using a grey magic marker to touch up a little bit of the carpet that had worn. Most people wouldn't have even seen it. Others that did would have called maintenance. And he stood up, chairman of the agency and one of the best copywriters in the world, and he said, "There's passion in perfection." Don't look for something you're passionate about. Find passion. Find it in the pursuit of perfection, or as close as you can get to it. Find it in everything you do. And here's what else will happen. Good things will happen. People will see how you work and give you that next job and the one after that and the one after that. It's kind of like the opposite of those direct TV commercials. I thought it was Gary Player who said, "The harder I practice, the luckier I get." But as I was coming to Wake Forest, I decided I'd check and did some research. And it turns out it's not entirely clear who said it first. So let's say it was Arnold Palmer. He was right. And it can be adjusted for life and business. The more you love the work you're doing, the luckier you will get. Which brings me to tip number 7. If you want to be successful, don't feel obliged to write lists of 10 when 6 will do, or to take 30 minutes when 18 will do. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Grit wins. Learn to love your problems. Don't look for a mentor. Be a good mentee. Do find someone who will tell you the truth. And above all, to get the job you'll love, love the one you've got. My congratulations to all of you. You are now qualified to do any job you want in business. Be lucky. Thank you.